This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And we start a brand new month of brand new on this days that I've done for this is my fourth year doing them. So let's do one that has happened since the start of sports catastrophe. The 4-year run, of course, will run its course by December, but we're in November. So anyway, let's talk about something that happened last year. Yeah, that's right. The 2023 World Series ended on this day, November 1st, 2023, as the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks, two expansion franchises, would go toe-to-toe. They're not, well, they were branded expansion teams because they were not part of the original 16 teams and all that. The funny thing was both Texas and Arizona were teamed wild cards. They didn't win their divisions. Those two teams did, making it the third time that a World Series meeting would be held between two wild cards. 2002, with the Giants facing the Angels, which I did a couple days ago, and also the 2014 World Series between the Giants and the Royals. When the Royals came from that wild card game, that big win over Oakland, and then they swept their way through to the World Series. Anyway, based on their better regular season record, the Rangers had home field advantage. All that. So anyway, this would be a shock because this I believe was the first. Was it the first or the second World Series? I was going to say the first World Series that did not have Joe Buck on the call for Fox, but I guess it was the second, as the great Joe Davis did so. Anyway, this was the first time Texas and Arizona would meet in the postseason. Well, they would, because Texas was always in the AL and Arizona always in the NL. Both teams sucked in 2021. And the fact of the matter is both teams combined to win 174 games, which was the lowest for a non-shortened season World Series. So anyway, Texas would be hosting its 5th straight World Series as a state from 2019 to 2023. Anyway, this was the first World Series that did not have either Houston or LA in it since 2016. Arizona actually played Texas 4 times in the regular season, winning 3 of them. Usually teams don't face each other like that, but anyway. And this would actually be the 6th World Series overall to be entirely on artificial turf, as Texas's stadium was on artificial turf, Globe Life Field. Arizona had Big One Ballpark, which was, I thought it would be grass and with a roof, but I guess it was artificial turf. This was actually the 6th time that a World Series was played on artificial turf entirely. 2020 was there, but that was the pandemic year in which LA faced Tampa for the crown. Anyway, the last official artificial turf World Series was 93 when the Blue Jays and Phillies took on each other. Both Skydome and Veterans Stadium had artificial turf. So anyway, Texas during the regular season actually had the most runs and home runs by a team. Texas brought 6 people to the All-Star game. Texas needed some moves because Dennis Garcia, Jacob deGrom, and Nathan Eovaldi were hurt. So they acquired Aroldis Chapman, who basically was almost always in the World Series for a different team. Remember reliever Chris Strider and starting pitchers Jordan Montgomery and Max Scherzer. They looked good for leading the AL West, but they fell behind Houston. Actually, they both tied for wins, but Houston had a better head-to-head record, thus the tiebreak. Texas would be the 5th seed in the American League. There would be 6 teams in the American League. The top 2 teams, in the National League, the top 2 teams in each league, AL and NL, would get byes to the semifinals, aka the LDS, while the lowest ranked division winner, the division winner with the least wins, would face the 3rd wild card team, or the 3rd best team with with the most wins without a division title. And then 4 versus 5. Anyway, Texas were qualified to be 5th. They took on the 4th seeded Tampa Bay Rays and swept them kind of easily, despite being in Tampa. In the division series, they would sweep the top seed Baltimore Orioles, proving that Baltimore just wasn't ready for prime time. In the ALCS, they would face Houston, and it went down to the wire. It went down to a 7th game, Texas winning in Houston. It was the first time since 2011 the Rangers had made the finals, and the 3rd time overall, 2010 and 2011. Texas was looking to end their World Series drought of 62 years since the franchise began. The Rangers began in 1961 as an expansion team in Washington to replace the old Washington Senators who were sold to Minneapolis. So anyway, it would be huge. They had the 2nd longest active championship drought in Major League Baseball behind Cleveland. And Bruce Bochy was trying to win his 4th World Series as a manager. He won 3 with the Giants in the 2010s. And Arizona also had a crappy year 2 years prior. They had an uneven regular season, which means highs and lows. At their peak, they were actually 16 games above 500 in mid-June. But in a 32-game stretch from early July to mid-August, they went 7-25 and fell 2 games below 500. The funny thing was, I was at one of those ebb and flow games. In mid-July, it was my first Blue Jays game in 16 years, seeing them live, and I saw the Diamondbacks lose to the Blue Jays. Little did I figure that I would be seeing a future World Series team. Arizona had a good core. They picked up Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel in a trade with the Blue Jays. So that was huge and all that. Especially from the Blue Jays' point of view. It's like, they're going to ring rings. Despite all that, Arizona was actually the 6th and last team to make the postseason. They would face Milwaukee, who were the lower-seeded division winners, and beat Milwaukee, making Milwaukee not ready for prime time. In the division series, they shocked their fellow NL West team, the Dodgers, by sweeping them. And then in the NLCS, they took on the Philadelphia Phillies, who were looking to go back to the World Series for the 2nd straight year. But Arizona, like Texas, won Game 7 on the road to do it, and made it the World Series for only the 2nd time in franchise history, and the 1st since 2001 when they had that famous 7-game series against the Yankees that went down to the wire. Their 84 wins was the lowest amount by a full season NL champ since the 2006 Cardinals, who had 83. But they won it. Those Cardinals did. In fact, the Diamondbacks were the first National League team to win the pennant with a negative run differential. The 87 Twins also did so, but they're in the American League. The bullpen worked wonders in the postseason. They had 125 to 1 preseason odds, and made them the 3rd longest odds to make a World Series since 1985, and the longest since Tampa in 2008. Well, come on, Tampa. Everyone didn't like Tampa because Tampa almost had a last place season in the AL East every year since they started in 1998. And Evan Longoria, who was part of that Tampa team in 2008, was playing for the Diamondbacks. So 15 years later, he was going to the World Series. It was actually the longest by a position player in MLB history. Game 1 happened, Texas and Arizona. Arizona freaking crapped the bed, if you will. They gave up two runs in the 9th. As Corey Seager hit a towering home run to right field to tie the game. And then in the bottom of the 11th, Adonis Garcia on a 3-1 pitch hit a walked-off dinger to right field. With his 22nd RBI, that led the most RBIs in a postseason ever. Arizona would crush Texas. It was a 2-1 game after 6 innings, but Arizona, for some reason, decided to go Al Kabong and win 9-1. Ketel Marte got a 2 RBI single. When that hit, that made him have 18 straight games in the postseason with a hit, setting a new Major League record. Texas would go into Arizona and score 3 runs in the 3rd inning. And that worked out. Fortunately, Adonis Garcia got injured because of a side strain. So that puts things in question for Game 4. And the funny thing was that Texas became undefeated at 9-0 on the road. Then they went to Arizona. Then Arizona for Game 4, and Texas crushed it early. They were up 10-0 after 3.5 and scraped by 11-7. So it would be huge and all that. But injuries would put Garcia out of the World Series roster, and Ezekiel Duran came in. And then Max Scherzer got injured, so Brock Burke had to come in. Texas would win the game, put themselves 1 win away from a World Series, and have a road winning streak of 10 games. And then came game number 5. Zach Allen and Nathan Eovaldi started the game. It was a pitcher's duel till the 7th. And in a massive move, Zach Gallen actually did not allow a hit in 6 innings. The Diamondbacks had 2 very good opportunities to score, but they failed in the 3rd and the 5th inning. Corey Seager would hit a single in the 7th, the left field, and then Mitch Garver hit an RBI single to make it 1-0. The Diamondbacks actually survived a bases-loaded attempt by Texas to score more runs. And then came the 9th. Joe Heim hit a single, and then Alec Thomas bobbled the ball in the outfield. 2 runs scored to make it 3-0. And then Marcus Semien, former Blue Jay, mind you, hit a 2-run tater tot to make it 5-0. Josh Sabors came in to record the final outs, striking out Ketel Marte, getting the save, and the Rangers would win the game and the World Series, bringing the Texas Rangers franchise that started in Washington, played 11 years, and then went to Texas. Their first ever franchise title, ending the 63-year drought and making the second longest drought obsolete. Now I know you're going to be asking yourself, who now has the second longest drought? And I do believe it's the San Diego Padres slash Milwaukee Brewers. Yep, San Diego slash Milwaukee are now the longest drought. Because they started in 1969 as a franchise and have not won a World Series. Milwaukee's been to 1 World Series as a team. San Diego's been to 3. I like to say 3. Is it 3 or 2? I think it's 2. But nevertheless, Josh Sabors did his job, and Corey Seager was named World Series MVP, winning the award with the Dodgers and now winning with the Rangers, becoming the first player to be World Series MVP in both leagues. Texas was 11-0, unreal in the playoff, in the road games. Texas didn't lose a road game at all. That was just like, how do you do that? That's unbelievable. And Ketel Marte's hit streak ended in Game 5 with 20 games. He walked 3 times and struck out once. I don't know if they intentionally walked him. But anyway, Bruce Bochy got his 4th World Series ring, making him the 3rd manager to win World Series championships in both leagues, after Sparky Anderson and Tony La Russa. Will Smith, the relief pitcher, actually won his 3rd straight World Series championship. He was on the 2021 Braves, the 2022 Stros, and the 2023 Rangers, making him the first player in MLB history to win 3 straight titles on 3 different teams. So that meant San Diego, Milwaukee, Seattle, Colorado, and Tampa are the only franchises to never win the World Series. The Padres have been to the World Series in 84 and 98. They were close in 2022, but they failed. Milwaukee's only been to the 82 World Series. Seattle has never been to the World Series. Colorado has been to the 2007 World Series. And the Rays went to the 2008 and 2020 World Series. So Texas did their job and all that. The ratings were terrible. It was actually the least watched World Series in TV history. Game 3 set the record for least watched in history with 8.29 million American viewers. But let's not forget, streaming services and alternate choices on cable and satellite make things different. Anyway, Capital One would sponsor the World Series and all that. The Rangers would hold their victory parade in Arlington, and they estimated a crowd of up to 500,000 people. Yeah, Will Smith wanted to be in 4 straight World Series with 4 different teams. He went with Kansas City, but Kansas City went to the LDS and lost to the Yankees. But neither the Rangers or Diamondbacks qualified for the 2024 postseason, as the Diamondbacks, I think, were the closest. But it made the first time since 2007 that none of the World Series defending league champions made it to the playoffs, much less the World Series. So, yeah. Can't really talk about the 2024 World Series because it's going on as we speak. So, that's all I'm going to say. And I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.